Thank you for joining us today, and we are very excited to introduce to you our featured author, Laura Rubinstein. She is part of the book Voices of the 21st Century, Women Who Influence, Inspire, and Make a Difference. This book serves as an opportunity for women from around the world to come together to share their voice and their truth. This book is really a conversation starter. It stirs the pot, disrupts the status quo by breaking some new ground. It's done simply by one woman sharing her truth, to be vulnerable and transparent. And we know that takes courage, which is why as more of us rise up to share our voice, to educate, to guide, to inspire, we all must support one another by both sharing and listening. So I would like to welcome to the show today, Laura Rubinstein. Welcome.
Thanks, Gail. I am even more inspired after listening to you open up the show.
Oh, good. Anyway, I would love for our listeners today to get the opportunity to get to know you. So let's dive into your story, because you share a strong story in this book, and I would love to know what it was that inspired you to share it.
Kind of what you talked about, but really the world we live in today is inspiring me. There's so much beauty, strength, wisdom, and power that we women have that we have not yet let out. And our world is craving it. It's calling us forward. I mean, you mentioned something like that. And I think if we can change that focus back to the beauty, the power, and the strength, and the wisdom that women have, and we can use that to create what we want, I'm just so inspired by that, by my own story, that of how I came to create more of that in my own life. So I want to see us have the world that you just talked about, and that's my motivation. I created these. There's so much that's come out of it. I think we can get into it in a little bit, but it's really started with the calling from my heart, hearing the calling from the world as I opened up to it and got more vulnerable, right? Like you said.
Right. So is there anything in particular that from that calling or that really shifted your presence?
Mm. Well, through my own process, I came to realize that we as women have more power than we think that we do to affect the world, and affect the world in a way we want it to be. And if we own it and we feel it and we do the inner work and we collaborate, it will happen. The shift will happen. And yeah, the shift will happen.
The shift will happen. So just giving our listeners a little that are considering, diving into this book, a little bit more insight to your story, and what they would, what they would find in it, but and also what you would expect them to receive from it.
Mm. I'd like readers to think about giving up trying to control or have power over things in their life. It's really hard to think about that. But instead, focus on being a force for harmony, peace, healthier relationships, a healthier world. And if we can put our focus there, for me in my own life, if I give up, like, okay, well, I got to figure out how to do this, and how, I have to look a certain way, and I have to say a certain thing, and I can engage with a certain people. If we give up all that, like trying to control the circumstances and trying to put people down or punish them or whatever, and we just say, no, you know what? I want my world, or I want the situation to be harmonious, peaceful, healthier, connected. Like, what if the whole world did that? It would be a better place to live. And that's the power of we women have. We have that already. If we model that, our whole world will change. And I want our readers to step into that. If I want to invite them to step into that. And if they want to, great.
Mm-hmm. So getting to know you, and I've had the privilege of getting to know you over the last few years. I mean, I know that you demonstrate living that way. How you show up to everything is that same state. Has it always been like that for you?
No, in fact, the story I tell in the book is with a mentor, and I took a workshop of hers. I don't think I mentioned this in the chapter, but she reflected back to me later on. She goes, Laura, when you walked into this workshop when I first met you, I would have called you the Ice Queen. Yeah, right. My jaw dropped too. Okay. And I had no concept that that's the way I was coming across. And when I started discovering the principles that would lead me to that courage and power and strength, and I call that the feminine power principles, um, and beauty, and really focusing in on that, my whole essence softened into who I authentically was. It's not like I changed, but it was like I took off the guard. I took off the defensiveness. I took off the superpower, powering through things, all business, get it done kind of thing. And I still have that part of me. I can get things done, no problem. But it's all from an intentional space now of what I mentioned earlier, the creating the harmony, the peace, the relationship, a world that works, businesses that work, you know. So yeah.
That's big stuff, powerful stuff that you're talking about, because I know probably a lot of us listening right now can really, I know I can relate to it, being that ice queen. It does sound harsh, but it's, you wonder where that comes from, right?
It's a
Uh,
cultural thing, I think,
yeah.
partially, and it's also an upbringing thing. I was brought up on the East Coast, Northeast, and you're kind of rough around the edges, or at least that's how I was. And my mom was very much into the workforce, get things done, and we mimic what we see and what we think culture is telling us, the society is telling us, and we also react to, how do you get things done. And it's a very, what I call, masculine oriented society, which there's nothing wrong with that. First off, it's just that I was never given the opportunity to explore this other side, the feminine. And when I did, I was like, oh my gosh, this whole other side, way more powerful than the masculine. Let's use it, and let's use them together, and the harmony thing, right?
So absolutely. Once you can shed that, it's superpower and freedom. So tell me your story, it has, you evolved and transformed, and you truly demonstrate a lifestyle filled with great joy. So how has it impacted your life today? Like, what are you doing with this great gift?
Well, one of the things to allow me to embody this that I did right off the bat, which I knew that I was learning something that was so innate in me, but foreign as a practice. And I wanted to embody it. So I started writing down on index cards my little wisdom nuggets and things I wanted to embody. And before you know it, I had a whole stack of index cards that I'd be flipping through as I'm like trying to get through stuff, relationship issues, work issues, whatever, clients, parental, whatever. And I think it was 2007 or 8, I came out with a deck of wisdom cards. They became a wisdom deck, and in fact, the author John Gray, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, I showed them to him. I had the opportunity to be in his presence, and he was flipping through, and he goes, "I love these cards. Can I buy them?" And I'm like, oh, "Really?" And I said, "You know what? This was a prototype deck. This was not the full, I just wanted to show him and see what he thought." I said, "You know what? I'd love to gift you these. Would you be willing to give me an endorsement because you just said you love them?" And he said, "Yeah, just write it up." And so really what he said was, "I love these cards. These cards are like having a relationship coach in your pocket." And basically, one side is the feminine power principle, and the other is a practice, how to embody that. So, I use these. I keep them right here on my desk. I pull them out from time to time, especially when I'm like feeling lost or feeling mulling over something, especially with a relationship that's in my life, and how do I address them. And oftentimes I'll just pick a card like, oh, yeah, here's one. Perfect isn't what you try to be. Perfect is who you already are. So I might ask myself, am I trying to be something I'm not? The exercise is either a contemplation, a question, or something to do. something to write about, something to, or an affirmation. So there's like three: something to do, something to write about and contemplate, or something to affirm. This one is something to do. Choose an imperfection and write a thank you note to yourself about the gift you're willing to receive from that imperfection. This is really about accepting yourself. Perfect is who you already are. You're perfectly imperfect.
Okay.
So I love these cards. I use them every day in my life. I use the wisdom from them. I shouldn't say there is some part of this that I use every day. And I go back to them and I'm like, that's really good. That's a really good point. It's like, oh yeah, that's true. And so they're like time-tested truths that I knew as I was writing them down on those index cards, that this is who I want to live as. I want to embody this principle.
Wow. What I really like about that is as you were demonstrating them, is that I could really see it as just that pause in a day that you sometimes need to reground yourself and to embrace yourself and to go, you know what, I am enough. I'm perfectly imperfect.
That's right. I don't need to go strive for perfection. Done is good.
In a world where we're experiencing a lot of pressures and, as we know, just our world today with the influence of uh, hyper speed technology and information hitting us, these would be a really nice break.
Yeah. Because the more information that comes, the more we feel we're missing out and we're not enough. But the truth is, we're more than enough.
Right. Okay. So I know there's probably somebody sitting here right now going, I want that card. I want those cards. Where can we get those cards?
FemininePowerCards.com. Pretty
Okay.
easy. We make it easy.
FemininePowerCards.com. Perfect. And you too can have those break. Well, that's awesome. That's really, really great. Thank you, Laura. Thanks for being on the show today and sharing your words of wisdom, your nuggets of wisdom, and your cards. They're really fantastic. So before we sign off, let's share some more words of wisdom to the listener. What would you like to leave with them today?
I'd like everyone to think of how they want the world to be and know that it can absolutely be if we soften into it. And you can read my story and hear why. I believe with all my heart and soul that not powering up and over, instead softening into, and softening doesn't mean weak. Softening means, you said being vulnerable. When we can be that vulnerable space without giving up our boundaries, very interesting concept, then we can shift things. And we need to know where we're safe to do that. It's not always safe, and I will say that. But picking and choosing the right places to soften and to get really clear and to set those boundaries and then to be vulnerable when we need to make a shift. The world is going to change. We women are going to change the world. That's why I'm proud to be a part of the Voices of the 21st Century book. And so thrilled you did it. It aligns so much with everything I can't even express.
Oh, you're wonderful. I love you. So,
Likewise.
very powerful closing. Thank you. Thank you, really, from the bottom of my heart, just for who you are, everything that you do. You're amazing. And I love that you, as you've transformed and have stepped into your power, that you've also created something very practical and easy to use.
I have. And it's not even my main focus, but I use it every day with business clients in my marketing work, in my content development work, and the work that I do to help people craft their messages and get the word out about them. All of this informs that. So it's a power tool, personally and professionally.
Absolutely. So thank you for sharing that. And for those who already don't know, you see the sign in the background. If you're watching this on the TV, socialbuzzclub.com, it is the number one gamified blogging society with monstrous, massive reach to share your workout with the world. So well done. You are a creative genius.
Thank you. Appreciate
All
you.
right. And so thanks for coming on today. And to our listeners, we'd like to thank you for also joining us today. And we invite you back to join us again next week and hear and learn from another great woman sharing her voice. And remember, your message matters. So to the world, you may be one person, but to one person, you may be the world. We thank you for listening.